welcome from the Crime Prevention Research Center. Dr. John Lott is with us. Dr. Lott, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. Good to talk to you again.
It's good to talk with you as well. And you've got a piece at Fox News right now, a simple rule of thumb on how to judge the caliber of a Supreme Court nominee. You say you can judge this if it's a Republican nominee anyway, by how angry the Democrats get. And they were so angry last night, Dr. Lott, we saw pre-printed signs already handed out. Other signs were blank, and they just wrote in Gorsuch afterwards. But they were ready to be angry about this pick.
Oh, and they still are today. I've studied all the nominations for federal courts from the beginning of the Carter administration through the Obama administration. And one thing is pretty clear is that when you have a Republican nominate a bright person who's influential, you're going to get a lot more opposition. It's going to be a lot more difficult confirming that individual. So I'll just give you a simple example. If you have somebody who graduated from a top 10 law school, was on the law review, clerk for an appeals court judge, and then the Supreme Court, it takes them about 160% longer to get through the confirmation process than somebody who didn't go to a top law school, didn't do particularly well at the law school that they were at, and didn't have any prestigious clerkships.
Really? You bring up the case of Harriet Miers, a nominee from George W. Bush, who ultimately withdrew her nomination. You say that Republicans were unhappy with this. I remember this. There were a lot of Republicans who thought this was not the best pick that President Bush could have made. But you say Democrats, on the other hand, they were mostly okay with Harriet Miers' nomination.
Right. Maybe I should just explain briefly what the theory is, that what's happening here. And that is, the easiest way for most people to think about it is a jury. Somebody like you would probably have a hard time being on a jury, and that's because you're a very persuasive individual. You know, the lawyers on either side of the case would look at it, and if they thought you were even slightly against them one way or the other, they would strike you from being on the jury. The same thing's true with lawyers. Lawyers are very rarely allowed on juries because everybody knows that the jurors there will give a lot of deference to what the lawyer says is the law, and he'll have a great deal of influence on the jury members. So it's kind of like those types of people are worth more than one vote. And so, you know, they'd rather have somebody, let's say a plumber, who they're more certain is against them, than take the risk of somebody who may be able to sway many jurors there. And the same thing is true with judges. When you're talking about appeals court or a Supreme Court things, you care not just about what their views are, but you care about, will they be able to convince other people on the Supreme Court? Will they write opinions that are going to influence judges around the country? In the case of Harriet Miers, as you say, even though it was clear what her views were on something like abortion, which normally you would think would send Democrats to the barricades to be told that she was strongly against abortion, they were very positive about her. The opposition came from the Republicans, who were threatening to go and ask questions during her confirmation hearings about whether she knew simple facts about the law, and in order to try to embarrass her. And it was that type of opposition which caused her to withdraw. You know, on the other extreme, you have somebody like Robert Bork, who I believe was strongly opposed because he was such a brilliant mind and would have had such a huge impact on the debate in the court. And so, you know, I think somebody like Gorsuch is going to face a lot of opposition just because he is a powerful intellect.
Absolutely. I said earlier, I had the chance last night to read through some of his opinions, and you know, he's a very clear writer, Dr. Lott. He is very persuasive. He's a very good writer, but it's not, you know, jumbled legalese. He lays out his argument very succinctly. It comes across as very common sense, and it is persuasive. You know, at least it was to my reading. Is that the reputation that Judge Gorsuch has established there in the 10th Circuit?
Yeah, I believe that is the case, and I believe that's his ability to communicate ideas in a way that's comprehensible to many judges. I mean, even avoiding legalese helps convince other judges of what you're writing. It makes it more likely that they're going to follow those types of rulings that you have. And so I think, I mean, it's not just everyday citizens who can read those cases and understand clearly what's going on. And so I think he represents a threat. And now the only thing that might determine him not getting as much opposition as he would have gotten otherwise is whether or not Democrats think in the near future there'll be another vacancy opening up in the court. If that's the case, they won't throw everything they have at this. They'll be more likely to save some of that opposition for the next go round.
Yeah, that's true. There are some political considerations. There's that. There's the midterm elections in 2018 when you have 25 Democrat senators who are up for re-election. I believe 8 of them in states that Donald Trump won in 2016. Look, I don't envy Chuck Schumer right now trying to keep all of the various factions of the Democrat Party even remotely unified right now, because the base of the party is screaming to do everything that the Democrats can to try to block this nomination. If that means that we end up having a showdown over the filibuster for Supreme Court nominees, they seem to believe bring it on. And as you say, I think there are those sort of longer-term political calculations that are being made by party leaders right now as to how exactly they're going to try to manage the nomination of Gorsuch.
Right. Well, I mean, Schumer has his own issues to deal with. He voted for Gorsuch when Gorsuch was up for the appeals court. In fact, all the Democrats did. But this is a pattern that we've seen for decades, though. The battles have gotten worse. People can see this in my book, Dumbing Down the Courts. The battles have gotten worse, but the big fights have been over the justices who will be the most influential. One way you can measure how influential judges or justices are is how frequently other judges cite their opinions. If a judge gets 20% more citations to his opinions by other judges, it takes about 60% longer for that type of individual to get through the confirmation process. And that's probably the most direct measure of the influence that a judge has on other judges.
So do you know how widely cited Neil Gorsuch is?
Unfortunately, I don't. He was confirmed in I guess 2006, and
yes.
But there's studies that are done. I haven't done these studies. Other academics have done these studies, but for some, he's not included. The last study that I know of basically looked at data through 2008, and he wasn't really in the court long enough to really be included.
All right. Well, listen, I do appreciate you coming on the program, and I think it is going to be a wicked fight for the confirmation of Neil Gorsuch. Chris Cox, NRA Iowa Executive Director on NRA TV earlier today, telling Grant Stinchfield that it's all hands on deck right now. Every member, their voice is needed. They've got to contact their senators, and let's hope that it's a fairly smooth and quick process for the confirmation. But I think you're right, Dr. Lott. I think we're going to see Democrats pull out, if not all of the stops, a lot of the stops to oppose this nominee.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Look forward to doing this again soon. Dr. John Lott, the book again, Dumbing Down the Courts, with us here on Cam and Company.